and my name is Rebecca Harkness. I'm Harky 21 on most platforms, or just Harky. So yeah, I just finished my master's in anthropology. This is an anthropology study. But we will be talking about fandom fun stuff too.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm a classmate and friend of Rebecca, who also just finished their master's in anthropology, and I helped with this study.
Yeah. It's a good study.
Hi, I'm Kiki. This is my first con, so also my first panel. I was never in a fandom before I met Rebecca.
How?
I don't know, and I didn't just like walk into this fandom so much as like tumble into it, like hard, as in like hundreds of dollars went into buying merch and all that.
High five to
Yeah,
us.
so
Yes.
Kiki and I lived in Tokyo when this first came out, so we were like buying merch.
Excessively.
Yeah, so, okay. So first disclaimer, this is not a shipping panel. We are going to discuss canon ships depicted in the show. Ships like outside of that, we're probably not going to touch upon. But if you have like a really strong connection to something and you feel it's relevant and want to bring it up, please do. We are going to kind of have this be an open panel. We like having discussion with everyone. So if there's something you want to say or feel is relevant or want to share, just raise your hand. I'll call on you, either identifying you by your hat or hair or something. Yeah, so really open. Please feel free to participate. So first, background. So as I said before, this is an anthropology-based study, which means we, do you want to give a definition of anthropology?
Yeah, okay. So in America, anthropology is basically the study of humanity through culture, basically. And we have 4 different subdisciplines. The only thing you really need to know for this is that this is sociocultural anthropology. So we're talking about fandom as culture.
Yeah, so fun. Okay, so to do this study, I interviewed 5 Yuri on Ice fans. I sent out a survey that hit up like 400 plus people all over the world. And also I collected social media posts. And what was really awesome was that I was doing this study right around the 1st year anniversary for Yuri on Ice. So without prompting, people were like throwing out why Yuri on Ice was important to them, which was like really fun. So just so you know a little bit more how it looks, we do interviews and then we study them and we look for certain themes to pull out, like, oh, these people keep talking about depression or anxiety or something like that. And it's like, okay, that's a theme because multiple people will talk about it. Surveys, I built a survey off the interviews to see if on a broader spectrum, the themes that I found in the interviews held across the fandom. And then for social media, I analyzed to see if those themes held in an unprompted space. So like, are people talking about this stuff by themselves without me asking?
Yes.
Yeah. So fun, the bottom chart there with all the country names are all people, the countries people identified as being from for the study. So there's like Norway, Japan, Australia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Mexico, Netherlands, Singapore, Belgium, Poland, Uruguay, like all over. There was even this like really tiny island in the Pacific that I had like no idea existed. It was kind of cool. Yeah. So those themes that I talked about that people found in like the fandom community was 1, community, 2, representation either in canon or in fanon. Because we all know that like there's representation people find in canon in the actual video, but then there's also fanon, like heavy headcanons that most of the fandom accepts.
Oh, like the... Yes.
It's okay. And then also the positivity people got from the fandom and inspiration aspects. So we're gonna kind of go through and talk about each of those individually and what people got from them. And once again, please feel free that if you like connect with something to like chime in if you want. Just raise your hand. So first was community and the idea of fandom as like the togetherness of it. All 5 of my interviews brought up that fandom was a community for them in some way. And then in the survey, 382 out of the 460 responses I got agreed or strongly agreed that Yuri on Ice as a fandom is a community that they felt part of. And then, like I said, 1-year anniversary tweets. I'll let you read that if you want. They also mentioned people making friends in the fandom, and like I have that experience as well. Teah and I became friends because we both really liked Yuri on Ice, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's another anime nerd in my program. Yeah, so that's something that was really fun to see how many connections people got just from being in fandom together. So next is representation. One of my favorite quotes from the interviews was when someone found it, they were like, gays on ice, hell yes. Like literal reaction for everyone. So representation of a queer relationship mentioned in every interview, and I didn't even ask about it. It came up by itself. And then I also have the stats there of how many people thought Yuri on Ice had a good representation of an LGBTQ plus couple, and if the representation is important to them because they identify as LGBTQ plus. And then also I had an open section that people could just type in their response for why Yuri on Ice is special to them. And a lot of them brought up including the importance of representation. And unfortunately, those are too small to see. But the longest red line, I asked, people were allowed to put their sexuality if they wanted. So the longest red line is actually bisexual. And the second longest is asexual. Woo! Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, like, heterosexual, which one is heterosexual? That one's actually the third. Yeah, it's kind of like it's type of pansexual. Heterosexual is type of pan. So, I mean, it's just like really cool. It's like, oh wow, there's this community with a show that brought like a very diverse group of people to the same thing.
Yeah, it was a very wide spectrum of sexuality representation there.
Yeah, and that was just like really cool to see. Yeah, and then I really love this one. I cannot believe it's been a whole year since a Japanese figure skating anime invented love.
Yeah, well, they're not wrong.
So, yeah, that's one that I really liked hearing people talk about how they related to the show through that representation of relationships. And then the next one for representation was like, that's exactly how I feel right now. And it's mainly based around depression and anxiety, which was mentioned out of 4 out of the 5 interviews. And they speak from the experience of seeing how it was so accurately depicted in the show. They're like, they could look at the screen and be like, that is how I feel, like, and connect with it at a deep level. And I do have the numbers again on how many people thought it was a good or an accurate representation of depression and anxiety. I think it's just also important that the show hit upon this because depression and anxiety is like kind of, I mean, one, in Japanese culture, they don't talk about it. And then 2, like even in American culture, it's still stigmatized. So you have a character that's like pushing himself in the show to be the best he can be despite like those challenges that he has.
Yeah, and I think one of the most significant things is that, you know, with the depiction, especially of Yuri with this anxiety and also with depression, is that they didn't just play it as he has it for like these 2 episodes and then we don't see it again. It's like a continuous thing that happens, and that's the experience of so many people who connected with the show. So that was really, really important.
It was also really good growth development because he got a little bit more comfortable each episode with the help of Victor.
That's exactly right.
And to play on the self-doubt, I think something they did that a lot of things don't do with self-doubt is it's not coming from outside. Where a lot of shows kind of show it as like, a parent or like, at a young age there was someone that was kind of putting them down to put that self-doubt in them. Where Yuri has a lot of people supporting him saying, Yuri, you're good. You can do this. And yet he still doubts himself, which I think is something that a lot of people experience. Even when other people tell you, you're good, you can do this, you still have that doubt.
Yeah, and like going from that, it does really show that you can have all the support in the world, but if you do have like a psychological impairment like that, it will not always feel that way, and you may know that and you may understand it, but you will still just feel like I'm not good enough. And one thing I do like about the show is that it does play up the concept of because Yuri is an unreliable narrator. And you don't, because I remember I first watched the show and I'm like, man, this guy came in last, like, man, he must suck. And then like by the end of the first or the second episode, I'm like, wait, he came sixth in like the world. Like, wait a minute. And it's that kind of thought of like, well, if you apply that to your own life, you also are a very unreliable narrator, because it's like, I could have like totally done this better, or I'm only okay. And then like in a way, it's sometimes like you're being humble, but it's also just that very belief that you just aren't good enough, or that you just that self-doubt you have, and like you are your own unreliable narrator. Because you always have people, if you're fortunate, like people around you saying like, no, like you actually did really good on this, and like I'm so proud of you, but you may not always feel that way. So it was really cool like to see that representation where exactly like your point, like he had people just saying like, no, for years like he's worked so hard and he's really talented, but he is his own worst enemy, and like he had the best of everything, but like it still got to him, and that's okay.
You're your own worst critic.
Yeah, I also think it's really cool that throughout the show, he like improves and like gets more comfortable, and he ends up like being incredibly successful with what he does, but it doesn't really depict it as like, and now I'm done with depression and anxiety. It's like, no, I can have depression and anxiety and like be successful at the same time, and those are mutually exclusive things.
So I was an athlete for 12 years of my life. I swam Division I in college. I did the long events that no one wants to stick around for, the mile. I started swimming the mile when I was 12 years old, and 60-foot class, short course, a short pool. It's daunting, you're 12 years old, you barely kept it at 66, right? But when I went to college, it was still my main event. It was the event that my team relied on me for, to score in. And I never had panic attacks before in my life. And I was at the division final for my league. And I remember sitting in the stands, massive pool, massive grandstand. Remembering the last time I had swum the mile, it was like one of my worst times ever. And mind you, I wasn't tapered, I wasn't prepared, I didn't have my little, pre-race rituals going, but I had all of the support. My family was there, all of my teammates were there, my coaches were there telling me to like calm the heck down, but I was still having a panic attack to the point where I had to go outside. So when Yuri has his panic attack, I was like, holy crap, the performance anxiety is so real. And so as an athlete, like that rang so true, and it looked so real. And honestly, I didn't expect to relate to Yuri in the way that I did. I think he's a very relatable character for pretty much anyone who watches this show, which is kind of incredible if you think about it.
Yuri's my favorite.
Thank you all for sharing.
Yes. So this is also talks about how that representation of anxiety and depression as something that he still works and struggles through also impacted them, and people are like, yes, this, all of this. And this is just a tweet. This is just someone who posted it. I didn't ask them. They did it by themselves. So I think having these social media posts also really shows like that show had a really large impact outside of like I think even the anime community. I don't think I've ever actually talked to anyone who has seen Yuri on Ice who hasn't liked Yuri on Ice. And if they don't like Yuri on Ice, they obviously didn't watch the full show.
Or they just assumed, oh, it's gay, and then didn't even watch, didn't even try.
But everything's better gay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More of a reason to watch it.
representation, yeah. Okay, more representation. Yes, most of this PowerPoint is representation. We'll come to a conclusion about this later. So representation in the real world, people love Cho. So this was only mentioned in one interview, but I also saw it online a lot. Some people kind of like saw it as controversial about Yuri gaining weight when he was in a bad place in life. But in the show, they do say like when he is not, training, he puts on weight and he's a bit heavier. Also, have you seen his parents? So
Mom's adorable.
yes, absolutely. Like yes, you. So only, like I said, only one person brought this up, but it was also I saw it in some of the surveys, and I also had an open space that's like, why is this character your favorite character? And there's more than one person who put that like Yuri is their favorite character because they showed that like he gained weight. Like, yeah, exactly. He's realistic. He's a normal person who gains weight when he's stressed out. And also this Twitter thread, I also really love. I'm friends with this artist, and it's just like it's affirming to see a character that can gain weight on TV. And it's like, yes, it is. Thank you.
It's also that they show him like having to work to lose the weight. Is what I really like. Cause like I also love I love the movie Legally Blonde, and one of my favorite little clips is just like when she's watching the news, they show her actually exercising. And like same thing with this. It's like, okay, I want to get back in shape. I have to actually work for it. And it shows it like, you gotta go on that diet. It's just like rice and broccoli and all that. And it's like he has to like work for it, and that's very realistic, because too often just athletic people are trained like, oh, it's just all natural. And it's like, yeah, you can have that natural talent, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have the body that's built for it. And you have to do like go the extra mile to get that. Like you earned that body to be able to earn that. And yeah, the fact that like his weight fluctuates, because that's also very realistic to players who are like on the off season. And yeah, it's very realistic, and I love it.
Yeah.
A lot of the bigger characters that I usually see in anime are portrayed as either like ugly or gross or villainous. So to see a normal average character go through that experience of, because I do that because I'm an athlete, like I gained weight when I was off season and I got back in shape. It's a normal thing that happens, but people always assume like when you're an athlete, you should be skinny. And it's just not fair.
Also, like they use like larger characters in anime are usually portrayed kind of like balloons.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like am I wrong about that? Yeah. So like, so they're just like balloons, and like that's not how everyone puts weight on. Yeah. And
relate to that.
yeah, and then the way Yuri put weight on, like that's exactly how people put weight on. Yeah. So yeah, this was something that even though it wasn't as pronounced, like. Me personally, I connected to it a lot, so yeah, I felt like it was important to put it in there regardless. So other mentions of representation outside of the ones we just covered, there's specific characters that people said that they like strongly agree with. I identified personally with this character, 69%, and that was when asked like, who was your favorite character? And they would state who their favorite character was, and then yeah, and it's like I identify personally with this character. Strongly agree.
Not always though.
Yeah, not always, but a majority of the time. And then ice skaters, Johnny Greer. I love seeing like actual ice skaters talk about the ice skating anime that came out. So much fun. Non-stereotypical depictions of international people. In the survey, people mentioned Russians, like they were from Russia, and they're like, the Russians aren't the stereotypical Russians. It's amazing. And then also in one of expressions of sexuality.
Yes.
So that kind of goes back to the representation of that as well. And then countries that typically don't get characters from them, like the Czech Republic, Kazakhstan, and Thailand. And then an interracial couple, like a couple people noted that that was really important to them because they are they're an interracial couple, like, or husband and wife, or husbands or wives. Like, so that was really important for them to see because you don't get to see that all the time on broad media. And then two that came up a couple times within fanon. So this is like people like hardcore headcanoning it. It's not completely canon, but could be, and it may or may not. You may or may not know. So one is religion, which I'm gonna let Teah talk about.
Yeah, okay. So Kazakhstan is a Muslim majority country. And so, like, in fanon, I've seen many people headcanon Odebek as Muslim because he's from a majority Muslim country. And that just really relates back to this whole character, identifying with the character and, like, really feeling yourself represented, because in fandom, you can place yourself into these characters, and Yuri on Ice is one of those that just has such a multitude of different faceted characters that you can do that. And so that's something that really resonated with me. And then also, like, going back to idolizing a particular character, Peachy and Odebek both are like the very first people in their country to do what they're doing at such a high level. And so, like, I personally really identify with that because, like, I'm first generation everything in my family. So, like, seeing that sort of excellence in what a character can achieve really, like, propelled me forward as well. So, that sort of thing.
Yeah, go. Oh, yes, go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, I am half Korean, and please raise your hand if you liked Soo-hyul as a character.
Wait, which
He's
one?
the Korean. He's the guy with the rainbow outfit.
Oh!
Okay, so this is a controversial topic, and lots of Korean Americans have varying feelings about this, but mine are these. I did not love the depiction of a Korean character, only because I wondered if it was commentary on the relationship between Japan and Korea, which has been fraught even before World War II. Like, Japan has a long and storied history of colonizing and invading Korea. And I know that it wasn't the creator's intent to create an unfavorable Korean character, but I did not sympathize with him. I thought he was cold and unfeeling. And, you know, some people think, like, oh, he's just misunderstood. And that's probably right, but he didn't get, like, an awesome characterization, and I did not personally relate to him. Mind you, I'm just one Korean American out of, you know, thousands, probably even a million, more than that. And then there's a whole country full of people who have, you know, probably seen the show and have different feelings. But that was probably my only problem with characterization in the show, is that I did not connect with the character that I felt like I should have based on shared nationality. So, thank you.
So then our last fanon representation that we wanted to mention is that the trans community, like, they can also easily see themselves within the characters too. Like, there is a lot of trans fic for, I think, like, every single character.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that is also important. So even within, like, the fandom, there's this large flow of representation and inclusivity for the most part. And, like, that representation, I think, is something that, like, keeps people coming back to the show again and again. Yeah, so next one is positivity. If Yuri can do it, I can do it. Yeah. So positivity, like, of the show itself, 3 out of my 5 interviews used literally the word wholesome to describe the show, and to describe it and characters. And it has an encouraging message. Like, you see someone very realistically going from like one of the lowest points in their lives and building back up to the highest point and getting up to balance and in between, which is awesome. And then in the fandom, people also said that they had positive interactions with other fans for the most part, friends and social connections made. So like people connected to others who love the show and would get together with those people that were like in the same area as them, which is awesome. Because I mean, how often do you get to see people who like share your fandom on like a regular basis and geek about it? When you live in a small town, not as much, okay? So like you have con, like once you, yeah?
I will say, I live in Prescott, Arizona for school. I'm so low.
We beat the odds because we were in the same master's program in Flagstaff, which was a complete total rarity, and if it had not happened, like...
You think, because I go to Embry Middle, which is like a nerd section.
Oh,
You
yeah.
think there'd be more weeds, but there are.
You would think, but no.
Maybe they're all just closeted.
Oh, they really are though. When I find one and I ask them about it, they're like, oh, hi, and then they run away.
Introverts from deep in fandom.
Yeah, true. Gotta love the computer screen, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, positivity. And then the next one is inspiration. Yeah, so actually this was one of the best things. One of my interviewees, his boyfriend watched it first, and then he made him watch it because he was like, we have to do a couple's cosplay of Victor and Yuri. And like, they have an excellent cosplay. They were on the panel, the Yuri on Ice panel that I was on last year for the Comic-Con, and they're just like, so that's where that quote is from. It was really fun. And then, so all 5 interviews actually talked about creativity, whether it was art, writing, fanzines, cosplay, or AMVs even. So, like, there was a very large array. And there was, like, this post up here, people who had dropped writing or dropped art and hadn't had it in their lives for a really long time, and like this show very specifically made them want to pick it back up again, which is a really cool. Yeah. You guys have anything on that?
Yeah, so in addition to that, I do a lot of music stuff, and actually Yuri on Ice got me back into music too, because the score is just so good. And also to try new things. Like, I took ice skating lessons for the first time as like an early 20-year-old and didn't think that I could do it, and then realized that I could because of this, and it's made my life all the better. So things like that. Do it.
Yeah. Yes.
I had me and my friend, we did female Odebek and Yuria, and I had my Yuria, but she sadly went home. So we definitely did this couple's cosplay.
Yeah.
So exciting. I've got like discussion, conclusion, and then I've got questions for you guys. I know, right? So my like thing is putting GIFs into PowerPoints. Like, I love it, so you can't stop me. So important insights. So just how much representation in a show means at different levels and like different representation all around. So we had like, I don't like this word, but mental illness.
Psychological impairment is also the alternative for it.
Thank you.
Disability studies.
Okay. Oh, awesome. You're awesome. Thank you. Psychological impairment. Like different body type shapes, weight loss, countries, like everything. Sexuality, yes. Like there's everything. How much a show and community can mean. So like community built around a piece of work, in this case an anime, and how like that show by itself built a community. Pretty cool. And the power that it holds, and like how it can make people like, you know, want to try new things, want to reach out to others to talk about stuff, how they relate to the show, and just like how powerful storytelling can be, and good storytelling that represents people. So conclusions that I had from my study. So it's important to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. Representation does appear to be one of the driving forces in the show's popularity. And then people have positive messages, and the show itself has a positive message, and people have positive interaction within the fandom, for the most part. And community and personal connections made through the show are also important to others. So that's the conclusion to that. And then we have questions for you. Yay! Okay, so Yuri on Ice is now 2.5 years old. Do you, as a fan, still feel a sense of community within the fandom itself?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone who's kind of like the people? Yeah?
Just because, like, it's really hard to find them now, whereas before it was like they were everywhere with ants in your house.
And I'm in a Jet fandom, this fandom still feels like
I mean, considering the fact that it's been 2.5 years and we've barely had, like, we've had pictures, there hasn't really been any new content, like, it's pretty impressive as far as fandoms go, because I've been in that Avatar fandom for a long time, and we haven't had, like, new stuff for years outside of Korra.
I mean, I think a pretty good representation of whether a fandom is alive or not is the fact, or, well, pretty still active, is like, if you're still getting new fan art within like 1 or 2 weeks, if you're still like seeing new and new fan fiction come in like every 1 or 2 weeks, or maybe even just within a few days, and like that's clearly still an active fandom that is still interacting with each other to the point where this, like, it's definitely not dead, even without official content.
You guys gotta find the right Instagram account
Yeah, right?
that just streams it.
So as far as,
I was just gonna say, I feel like the minute they actually announce when the movie is going to take place, there's gonna be this big internet shout of finally!
Yeah, everyone's gonna like rise from the dead.
Yeah.
So, as someone who invested a lot of money into official merch while living in Japan, I have a very big collection. Watching the amount of merchandise that is freshly put out go down like significantly has kind of hurt. I mean, it's better for my wallet. I mean, it just gives you an idea of like the fandom isn't necessarily dead in Japan. It's just hibernating.
Yeah.
When, you know, I said a lot